All right, you know what it is. This is the Big Douglas Show. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So make sure you hop in the comments, tell us what you think. It is a Monday, so Swaggy and Big Pooh are here. And our guest today from 1067 The Fan is Adam Epstein. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, man. Glad to be joining the show. Excited.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. It is Awad, those that catch him on the radio. You got to tell me where that nickname came from.
It was the first day I was on the Junkies. I replaced Ewad, and they were like, "Your name's Adam. You go by Awad now." And when the Junkies give you a nickname, you pretty much stay with it.
Chris, did you give yourself the name Swaggy? How'd that one come about?
Oh, so this is a funny story.
Yes, excellent.
So I got a good friend. His name is John Walker. We both went to high school together. And one night we were playing video games, and we was up just having fun, and we started freestyling. And when we started freestyling, we kept saying, "Swaggy this, swaggy that, swaggy this, swaggy that." And it was like all this swaggy stuff. Like we just kept going at it all night. Swaggy mix swagger, swagger McRiffic. You know what I'm saying? We just kept saying all this different swaggy stuff. So then I went to practice the next day, and I kept calling myself Swaggy. I was like, "Swaggy this, swaggy that, swaggy this, swaggy that," all in the locker room. And I happened to have a good camp that year, and someone wrote an article called Chris Swaggy Baker. And ever since then, the name Swaggy just stuck with me ever since.
And Pooh, you might as well go ahead and give us the origin story of yours.
My freshman year of college, a good friend of mine, Rashawn Rucker, he used to be a photo editor at the Detroit Free Press. But he was an upperclassman, and he used to always tell me that I look like a black Winnie the Pooh. So I ended up being nicknamed Pooh Bear my freshman year of college by the upperclassmen, and then come to find out there was a couple different Poohs on the yard. So it went from Pooh Bear to just Big Pooh to rapper Big Pooh, and yeah, so that's kind of how that came about.
Pooh, have you started watching the new the Genius documentary on Netflix?
I just finished the first episode last night. Literally just finished it last night.
So it made one of the scenes made me think about you. First of all, when the guy comes out and tells Kanye they were hoping for the beats for free. Mm-hmm. And he starts talking about how you go into the TV. Just because you're the best TV watcher doesn't mean I'm going to give you a discount on the TVs. So I'm trying to figure out, Kanye finishes with the Jay-Z album. The beats have to be. What do you think at that point beats are going for from Kanye at that point? Like when a guy says, "Hit me off with a beat," how much is that beat supposed to be going for?
Oh, he said it. He said it in the doc. He was getting like 40, 50 grand at the time for a beat. Yeah. Like that's I'm sounding so old right now. Back in those days, late 90s, early 2000s, or mid 90s to early 2000s, like that was like the gold rush for producers. They were bringing in the money, like 40, 50, 60, 70, some getting 100 grand, the top of the line guys, obviously.
Per track.
Per track, like not for a whole album, like per beat. One song on the album, they were bringing in that type of money. And, like even today, it's still, a few, as far as hip hop is concerned, it's different per genre, but in hip hop, it's still a few that still command, whatever they want, like Pharrell or the Neptunes, they're going to get whatever they want to get. So, it's different now than it was then, but yeah, like 40, 50 grand wasn't nothing.
I need to learn how to make some beats, man, because it looked like they use it all on the machine.
It's definitely easier.
I'm sure it's not quite that easy.
I know.
And what I'm curious, when the adverts come in for the radio, if there's been any that they've been offered that. What's the craziest advertisement that they've ever been offered that you could think of?
I mean, erectile dysfunction, that kind of stuff, I guess. There's a lot of like blue pill stuff that goes on in radio. It's like, because it's all about guy talk radio. So anytime like any sex bedroom stuff, sleeping pills, all that kind of stuff.
Chris, have you ever been offered endorsements where you said, no, thank you, I can't. I'm not into it?
You said me?
Yeah.
No, everything that was kind of brought to my table, I kind of like to do. I'm waiting to call Fuad so I could get back in a Paisano's pizza commercial. It's not just pizza. There's something for everyone. PaisanosPizza.com.
I mean, with a voice like that.
Chris, did you do a Eastern Motors commercial?
Man, I was so mad at them. I always tweet them like, y'all need an Eastern Motors commercial, man. I need me a nice little Ford truck to walk around with for free. Like, they got to hook Swaggy up with an Eastern Motors commercial. Like, come on. Like, what are they doing? Like, they always gave those commercials to all the offensive guys. I think Ryan Kerrigan was like one of the few defensive guys that got it, but they always got the offensive guys.
And Rack, I think Rack got on there one time.
Yep.
That's like a thing when you play for the team, right? You're always trying to get on Eastern Motors.
Definitely. You definitely got to get. They play those commercials all day in the DMV.
Yeah, I know. Clinton was like my favorite. Clinton and Santana, right?
Yep.
It's Combine Week. Chris, I've got some numbers here. All right. And we'll see if the guys can get the over-under here. 40-yard dash. You think, Awad, do you think Chris went over or under the 5-second mark?
Under. My guy Chris Baker can move.
He could move. 4.94 for Swaggy at the Combine.
That's
Flying at about 325, I think, if I looked it up properly.
Yeah, 326.
Pooh, you think that is faster or slower than John Allen's 40 at the Combine?
Faster.
It is. The only thing that John Allen bettered Swaggy in the 3-cone.
Yeah, my 3-cone was terrible. I don't know why it was so
Awful.
bad. It was so bad, bro. I don't know what I did wrong on there. I don't know what, but my 3-cone was like that. That's like the one drill I did over in Pro Day. I didn't keep those combine numbers.
35.5-inch vertical for the big man, though.
Yeah, that was the highest for all the defensive linemen, like real defensive linemen, not including those outside linebackers who are 200 pounds. My 40 was being compared to Aaron Maven, who jumped like a 40-something, but he was 220 pounds. I was like, bro, they should take them out of the D lineman stats so I could be top 5 and everything.
It was the grade turned out like at a B level. I mean, you rocked the Combine. 24 on the bench press, though. Not real great on the bench press.
Yo, that was the knock on a lot of Penn State guys because we were hammer strength guys. So a lot of the guys who came from Penn State always had low numbers in the bench, but we never lifted with like free weights. Everything was machine, worked at 30, like it was endurance lifting. And a lot of us struggled on that 225 who came from Penn State. So I blame Penn State for that one.
Very good. Adam, I see you there at the Bet MGM. Are they going to start? When do the lines come out? I know they're betting on the Combine numbers now, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't seen them come out yet, though. But I'm betting anything. So give me the lines.
Take the 40s. Swaggy, what do you think Aaron Donald ran the 40 in?
I would say somewhere like 4.7, 4.6.
4.67.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
Aaron Donald.
He's 285 pounds. I think if I was that small, I probably would have ran a little bit faster than 4.94 too.
How is he so small but so dominant?
Because he's like a little pit bull. Pit bulls aren't the biggest animals, but they're compact with muscle and they can move really fast. They can be very explosive, and he's like a little pit bull mix right now. I mean, he's a full-bred pit bull. He's just locked up everywhere. Like he's built like a freaking running back, but he plays defensive tackle.
Like I've never seen like when him at the parade, right? When he took his shirt off, it's like that's not the body that you expect of a
That's what I
defensive lineman.
That's what I imagine I look like. That's why I take my shirt off every summer.
That's-
In my mind, I look like that walking around. I kind of look like that with a white beater on, but outside of that, when I take that white beater off, this gut might fall down a little bit.
Chris, they are always talking about the crazy stories at the combine. I wonder if you'd walk us through kind of like the schedule when you get there, because my understanding is the timeline is intense.
Yeah, bro, it's something to do almost every minute. One of the strenuous parts about the combine is the medical part that you go through. So you see all of these medical doctors, and they determine, what may be wrong with you, what may not be wrong with you. I know for myself, they had so many questions. Like I had like 5 different MRIs. I had to get my shoulder MRI, and if you ever been inside of one of those MRI machines, they're not that big. And for some reason, we went to the hospital, but the hospital MRI wasn't made for big people. I'm like, bro, I got so many big people here trying to get MRIs. Like, how does this work? And I had an MRI on both shoulders, and you have to go in there like this and hold that position for like an hour without moving. And I tried to like fall asleep, and I woke up and like the MRI machine is right here, kind of got spooked and like moved, had to start the test all over. But for me, I was in that MRI machine for hours. Like I had 3 meetings scheduled with teams that I couldn't even take because my MRIs took so long. But they do a really strenuous test on everything. They do EKG. They make sure you don't have any heart murmurs. They if there's something wrong, they're going to find it. And you got a bunch of doctors pulling and tugging on you, like, hey, does this hurt? Does this hurt? I'm like, no, it didn't hurt until you moved it like that. Now it hurt.
Didn't they find something about Montez Sweat when they were doing all that?
Yeah,
You
the
guys
heart
remember?
murmur.
Oh
Yeah, heart murmur. Yep. But stuff that you didn't realize was going wrong, they're doing such a deep dive into everything about your body. Like they told me at the combine that eventually I would have to have scope surgery on both of my knees. And I'm like, for what? And next thing you know, I had scope surgery on both of my knees a couple years later. So they look for things that are weak. They look for reasons why you may have to have a surgery, because if they decide to draft you with a high pick and they know that you're going to have surgery, that may go into the evaluation of whether they pick you in the first round or second round. So the medical part was probably the hardest part of the combine. Everything else is just pretty much being competitive and just trying to be the best that you can be, and just having the excitement of trying to put your best performance forward. That part you love, but the medical part, that sucked because it was so long and so drawn out. But the combine's a good experience. Not too many people get a chance to even go to the combine, so it's really a fun time to really be able to compete with some of the people who are considered to be the top in your position and see how you measure up to those guys.
You brought up Montez Sweat, 4.41 in the 40 for Montez Sweat at his combine.
That's faster than a lot of receivers.
People are always talking about Chase Young. I think they forget Montez had a little bit of a down year last year, but that dude is a freak.
Oh yeah,
love Montez.
Everybody,
and that's why he drew the
comparison
to Julius Peppers. Because he was just so fast, tall, linky basketball type of player, and hopefully he could turn into, something like Julius, because Julius was special. He was probably one of the best pass rushers of our time. He was one of the best ones to ever play defensive end. So if he could be anything like Julius, that'd be great.
They are talking, it was interesting, they're talking about re-signing Deron Payne. I think most of us just assumed he'd be a part of a trade or just, let loose. Adam, are you surprised that they're talking about giving Deron Payne an extension, seeing as how they already gave Jonathan Allen one, have Sweat and Young coming down the pipe soon?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he'd be a part of a trade package. I still think that's possible because if you're bringing in a big-name quarterback, they're going to want someone in return. I mean, does that mean Matt Ioannidis is then on the trading block? I mean, you probably can't have all 3 of those guys. on the roster next year.
Well, Matt is at a discount per se. And then when you got Payne, I mean, look at what the Rams just built up. They won that game on the defensive line. So maybe you may be thinking if we got two guys who could rush, and Deron Payne is not a slouch in the pass rush game. You know, he's really good at rushing the passer, especially from the nose tackle position. You try and if you got good young linemen, you try and keep those guys as long as possible, especially while they're in their prime. So I'm not surprised that they would be talking about extending Payne's contract, because it's no guarantee that you'll find another Payne who can play the run and play the pass at a high level in the draft.
And I think the rumor started because everyone saw on the sideline him and John Allen get into it. But you know, I would love to keep our local guys that we've drafted. Anybody that went to Alabama, we got to keep them on the roster, right?
Right, that's championship pedigree right there.
Yeah.
Can't let that go. They understand how to win and what it takes to win.
Do you think Deron Payne is better than Jonathan Allen in certain things, like rushing the passer or defending the run?
I think they're both really good at playing defensive line. Sack numbers don't lie, and Jonathan Allen has been having more sacks than Deron Payne, but I mean, he's right there. He's right behind him. You know, it's not like he's only like a 2-sack guy. I feel like he could be a 6 to 8 sack guy, maybe even a 10 sack guy, just depending on how they able to rush together. But he definitely has the ability, and the more you play in the league, the more you understand what you can and cannot do in certain situations. And sometimes you just find a way by like you find a way to get a sack just by being in the right place at the right time. It's not that you perform the best move, but you understood how pass rush work. You understood Montez may be going high and Chase may be doing up and under. So you know that quarterback has to go somewhere. So you're just in your rush lanes and you fall into sacks. It's just, but I feel like he's athletic enough to move around. He's strong enough. He freaking bends offensive linemen over all the time. So with him and Allen playing in that middle, I mean, you can't ask for anything more, especially for outside rushers. The better those guys are in the middle at pushing that pocket and getting the quarterback off the spot, it makes life easier for those defensive ends.
When you say they're like falling into a sack, that reminds me, like, you know how Jonathan Allen, like, he'll push the offensive lineman that's not guarding him and then just kind of fall into the quarterback?
That's
that happens
understanding
like so
the slide protection. It's like, because to the blind eye, it's like, oh, he's playing pity pat with somebody, but he's reading that quarterback. He knows what that step up lane is, and once that quarterback steps up, it's just up to you to disengage with the offensive lineman and go out there and make the play. You see a lot of times when people don't make necessarily the best pass rush move, but they just know where to be and know where that quarterback is going to be. I can't tell you how many times I got sacked, especially with Ryan Kerrigan. I'm just rushing out the side of my eye. I see that he took an inside move, and I just replaced him. And because he got inside and upfield, that quarterback had to step up, and I'm just right there for a sack. I got 2 sacks in the first half against the Eagles, just like that, from Ryan doing an inside move, and I'm just covering him and just in the right place at the right time.
Chris, I mean, how much do you think? I mean, we're not going to ask you to speak on Deron Payne's behalf, but I mean, does a guy like that, how much do you think he's intrigued by being able to go off and be the number one guy on a line where obviously this is like, they took care of John Allen first and gave him the big contract?
I don't understand your question. Like, you feel like,
well, like, what do you think it intrigues him to go be the leader of a defensive line? He may be the number 2 option in Washington.
Well, yeah, I mean, you understand that Jonathan Allen was there first, right? So
right.
He's definitely the veteran of the group, but I don't think anyone looks at how much you're paid per se. I mean, everybody understands how much you're paid, but it's not always the highest paid person who's the leader. It could be someone who's not even the highest paid that the guys look up to, or that steps up and speak out more. I feel like Jonathan Allen and Payne, they're both outspoken, and they both will speak whatever's on their mind at any given time. So I think the guys respect them from that standpoint. And, when they play, they make plays. So the more plays you make, the more you can really assert yourself and be a leader on the team, because guys are going to listen to the guys who make plays.
Who we got? There's more Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson to Washington is like the hottest thing smoking right now. Does this surprise you? And that's not just like, Twitter buzz. Like, I think John Keim reported this morning that they've
It's
made that call, and that
They
interest is
have the
real.
highest odds for him to come to Washington at this point right now. I saw on Twitter earlier.
It's very surprising, but it's
Very
not
surprising.
at the same time. Like it's surprising from the standpoint of everything that's going on in Washington off the field, with Dan Snyder and the investigations and all those different things, to bring in some or to possibly think about bringing in someone who has his own, set of problems and issues that he's working through. So it's surprising from that standpoint, but I mean, on the field, I mean, come on, like
That's the dream come true.
right. You know what I'm saying?
want him
Like,
in Washington.
he's like, what,
for
26
football
years old?
purposes.
You know what I mean? Like, it was
Yeah.
one of the best quarterbacks in the league the last time we saw him play. So it's one of them things. It's the risk reward of, and listen, the league has the best, as Swaggy said earlier, the best medical staff. Everybody should get those type of checkups.
They don't have the best medical staff, but they
not the best medical staff, the best figuring out what's wrong with you staff. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? Clean that up. But as far as investigating and things of that nature, they definitely have, they're very, thorough in that regard as well. So it's one of them things of if at the end of the day he's gonna not, suffer,
get prosecuted.
be prosecuted and suffer, in the court of law, then it's one of them things where the risk is definitely worth the reward. It's just surprising because of Ron Rivera and what he talks about, and then you look, but Ron Rivera like, hey, I got to win too, so
Facts.
I won't be here long. And
winning will make you scratch your head and do some things that you might not agree with, but hey, it gives you a chance to win. So it's like
absolutely.
Were you surprised at all, Adam, that this always amazed me? Coach comes out talking about taking a big swing at quarterback this year. Well, one, if you don't have a quarterback, I suppose you should always be taking a big swing. But what was the point? Because realistically, what were the big swings, right? It was Wilson, Rodgers, and Watson. And if you believe, according to most people, that Watson and Wilson aren't going anywhere, like, you really painted yourself into a hole by saying big stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it because now the whole league knows we're desperate. They know we're the guy that's on the street, trying to pick up a girl after the club, because we're desperate, and Ron Rivera knows he has to win now. That's why, I mean, we're gonna have to make a big trade. I mean, I think back to all the pieces we gave up for RG3. I mean, as bad as that has turned out and kind of put our franchise back, we might have to offer up a couple firsts or a second because we need a quarterback, and we're not going to get that answer by going after retreads like Mitch Trubisky. Like, that's just not going to work.
How do you feel about the possibility of having Jameis Winston as our quarterback? Do you think we'll be
I'm
okay
actually a
with him?
Jameis guy. I'm a Jameis guy, but I also think if we're going to bring in Jameis, we got to grab like Mike Williams. You're going to need another help with wide receiver. I still think you need probably another running back because I'm iffy on Gibson with his fumbling and stuff, and he seems to get injured now every year. I mean, I think Jameis Winston could win games, but you're going to need to put some more pieces around him, and the defense has got to step up too.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely need another running back because I believe they've been using Antonio Gibson all wrong.
They didn't use him like
they didn't use him like
Alvin Kamara,
right?
They
or
give
like
him a lot of screens. They let him play wide receiver. They give him
Yeah.
quick screens. They get him on the edge. If they use him like that, he'll be, I feel, a better asset for our offense. The fact that they treat him like a traditional running back and running between the A, B, and C gaps, that's not what he used to. He used to being out there with wide receivers and having DBs hit him. Now he's having guys that's 330 pounds plus and a 250-pound linebacker coming down punching at the ball, and he's just not used to it. But if you put him on screens, now he's used to, hitting those safeties, those corners, and maybe having a linebacker come through and he could protect the ball more. But it's a lot different when those guys in the middle are banging at you constantly. That ball will come loose if you're not used to getting that type of contact.
Yeah, that's been his issue. Is like you said, like he can handle the hits from the corners and the safety, but when he goes up the middle and he's fighting for extra yards, they've knocked it out. It feels like McKissick has been the guy that gets the screen passes and the little dump offs, and he's excelled in that. So, I mean, I want him to stay there, but they got to do something else with Gibson.
Absolutely.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Pooh, we haven't really talked much about basketball since they made the big trade. You like Porzingis trade?
If he can get on the floor, yeah.
Yeah. Still one-on-one work right now, so it doesn't look like anytime soon. But
Man,
maybe that's not a bad thing, right? Is this one of those years where they can just stumble into the lottery next year and get one of those guys?
No, the problem. I went and looked at the record, right? And at the time I looked, this was like right after the trade. They were like number 11th in the standings, but they were so close to the play-in and so far from being one of the worst teams in the league. And so they were just at that point where it was like, you might as well go do the play-in, like try for the play-in as opposed to quote unquote tanking. So I think you know, them probably holding him, making sure he's super good before they bring him out. I think it's they putting a little sauce on, where he is in his, his injury return, but it's one of those things they got to get the point guard situation figured out more than anything because they're struggling. Like they can't get into offense. I just seen Domo put up like the shot chart from or the shot attempts from the other night when they lost. And your point guards were taking way too many shots. Like, it was ridiculous. So I just think they need to their main concern right now should be, developing young guys, they're young guys, and then figuring out what to do at the point guard position, because ever since John Wall got hurt, that's just been a black hole for the Wizards.
Yeah,
I'm still mad my Lakers didn't trade Russell Westbrook for John Wall. I want to see John Wall play again.
I know. We need John Wall back in the NBA. We need him playing games.
I don't understand, like, what is the problem? Like,
it's that
I
contract,
understand
bro.
that they went young and they want their young guys to play because they did really good, but is John Wall not good? Like, is he not good enough to help your team try and win games? Even though it costs you so much money to have him on your roster, you're paying him anyway.
Well, that was the problem. He would have helped them win games.
Right. They're trying to lose.
Yeah,
they're doing it right in Houston. They're fully tanking.
Houston did two things. Like they did one thing, but they kind of messed up at the same time. Like they're purposely putting all their young guys out there. And a point guard of John Wall's caliber could have actually helped their young guys more, in my opinion. But they sacrificed that to try out Kevin Porter Jr. at the point guard position, which hurt their young guys' development at the same time. So it's one of those things where, and then of course John Wall wasn't going to come off the bench either. So, I mean,
would you come off the bench if they're paying you $40 million?
It's not even that. Like he's a former All-Star, former All-Pro player. Like he's a starter. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
he's respect.
Yeah, he's not at that point in his career where he should be,
coming off
the bench. So I just think that, the Lakers got put in a weird position. I mean, obviously they did it to themselves. Instead of trading for Russell Westbrook, they had the Hill trade almost done, and then the Westbrook trade came at the behest of LeBron and AD. And then Rob Pelinka see how well that has turned out and decided, I'm not listening to LeBron and AD anymore. And I'm going to hold my 2027 draft pick because that's the first draft pick we have, because of the AD trade. And he's trying to play that game of thinking about the future of the Lakers when you have a LeBron on your team is only about now. And they're in a weird predicament. So I'm of the belief that the Lakers should just trade everybody this offseason and start over. Recoup them draft picks because you're not winning another championship with the way this roster is constructed.
Man, we look so bad. We just lost to the Clippers for the 8th straight time or something like that.
Yeah,
and they were without Kawhi, without Paul George. Like they just beat us with their B roster.
Listen, they just lost by 30.
Right.
To the Pelicans without Zion Williamson.
Right.
That's more embarrassing than the Clipper loss.
And that's why it almost seems like they mortgaged their future for that one championship. You look at that trade for AD. I mean, half the guys have become stars. Imagine if they had Brandon Ingram on that roster right now. Lonzo Ball was part of that trade. I think Julius Randle
Yep.
I mean, and AD's not playing games. So he
Right.
won them one championship, but it's crazy. LeBron will come to your city and win a championship, but then destroy the future.
Yeah, Ingram is like a younger version of Kevin Durant. He's like the poor man version of Kevin Durant. I wouldn't even say the poor man version. I mean, Kevin's just that much good. He's just that great of a player. I don't want to put Kevin and Ingram in the same sentence, but he's tall and lanky like him. He could get to the basket and finish. He could shoot. He could do pretty much all the things KD does. And to see him leave like that when he was so young. He looked so good in the Pelicans. I'm like, damn, we couldn't hold on to Ingram for another year or two. Like,
look what Kuzma doing. That he's been freed in Washington.
Right.
I guess I want to ask y'all this. Do y'all think that regardless of what happens with LeBron, I mean, he has 1 year left, but do y'all, if y'all were in Rob Pelinka's position, would AD be traded this summer?
Yes.
Oof,
if LeBron's not going to come back,
I don't think you trade him because you're not getting enough for him right now. I think around the league, people look at him as like a twig.
No, he's an all-pro center, and people will still give you 2 first-round picks for him. So maybe we can recruit some draft picks for him. AD is not going to go anywhere cheap. He's an all-pro, all NBA center, and guys will give up whatever they can.
He just can't stay healthy.
Because he's not even old.
What Charles
Barkley he just can't stay healthy.
Street clothes. That's what Charles Barkley calls
Street clothes.
And also, it feels like this is the first year where it looked like LeBron wasn't a guy that could lead a team to a championship anymore. Like I don't think LeBron's coming in to the gym anymore and just putting a whole bunch of guys you never heard of on his back and taking you to it. Like this really felt like the year where that changed.
Oh, he's killing it statistically, but he's not making the big difference like young, like LeBron 10 years ago. Like that's the injuries, because he used to be a guy who never got injured. That was the first sign of father time. And now, even though he's putting up numbers, him not being able to elevate the team or carry the team as
they're
he
so
once
old.
could.
They're so old. He has no young guys. He really doesn't have any shooters.
His
best thing is being able to drive and kick and find the open man. He's going to kick it out to Westbrook, who can't shoot a 3 to save his life right now.
Who was it? Was it the Lakers or was it? Yeah, it was when he first got to the Lakers, when they started trading everybody. The blueprint to building a team for LeBron has always been put shooters around him.
Yeah, that's why they went and got Danny Green.
And that's why they went and got Danny Green. And then, so this year they decided to not put shooters around him again. Like, what are people thinking? Like, that is LeBron. You need 4 shooters on the floor when LeBron is on the floor.
Everybody who's on that court right now wants to do the same thing LeBron does, and that's get to the hole and finish. Like Westbrook is not, your typical mid-range guy. He is a in the paint finisher type of guy. He'll make his occasional jump shots here and there, big shots here and there, but he's a get to the hole type of guy. The same thing with LeBron. Anthony Davis has been becoming like the new age power forward where he wants to shoot threes all the time, but there's not that consistent person that LeBron can always depend on. It's like, all right, I'm gonna make the right play and get it to this guy, and I'm 100% sure he's going to knock this shot down. There's no Ray Allen on that team. There's no Clay Matthews or Steph on that team. There isn't that guaranteed 3 where it's like, when he shoots it, it's going in. It's like everybody on that Lakers roster right now, if he shoots it, you're praying that the backboard don't break.
Let's wrap with this, Poop. Have you been as pleasantly surprised as I am about Rui since he's been back and getting acclimated in the lineup? We will talk about shooting. He's looked good so far, don't you think?
Absolutely. He should be. That's one of the people when Domo put up that shot distribution chart the other day from the other game. Rui only took like 5 shots, or something low, like 5 or 6 shots, and it's like, what's going? I just want to know what's going on with Rui. Like his minutes, he's been back for a while. Why is he still only playing 20, 22 minutes? Is it? Why is he only taking 5, 6 shots a game? It's something going on there that maybe a point guard could help solve, maybe not. Maybe maybe they still have a glut at that forward position between Kuzma, Denny, and Rui. So it's I definitely think Rui should be getting more touches. His shot looks way better than when he first came into the league. I mean, he's the Wizards' best 3-point shooter, even though he has the smallest sample size. He is their best 3-point shooter on the season. So I definitely think he should be getting more touches, more shots at the rim, and hopefully with Sato supposedly coming back, he helps remedy some of that. He's not all world, but he is a 6'7" guard that likes to, keeps the ball moving around and plays decent defense. So maybe we'll see more Rui in these last 22, 23 games, however many games they got left.
Yeah, I think Rui's got to stop hesitating. I mean, you said it, 5 shots and he hits 3 out of 5. It's like, what is going on here? Is it the coaching? Is it the point guard? Or is it sometimes Rui just catches it and he's like, he passes right away? I think he hesitates sometimes where there's a guy in his face. He could shoot that. He's tall enough that they're not going to block his shot. I think he likes to be wide open when he shoots. I need him to just take more contested jumpers because he needs to be shooting 10 to 15 times per game.
Get back on the block.
Back on the block, yeah.
Back on the block.
And what is it? Is it more frustrating being a Wizards fan or a Commanders fan?
Oh, Commanders fan, 100%. Because I mean, I can go to Wizards games and have fun, at that stadium. You can't have fun at FedEx.
No,
what is our mascot?
That's what I'm saying. What's our mascot? What's the theme song? Are we singing "Hail to the Commanders"? We got to figure this out before the season. That's my number.
I know they are working on a new song. Apparently, they're engaged. I always hate to say this. They are engaging the fans for a new song because engaging the fans seems like a surefire lead to disaster for this group. But there's no. I keep saying they should use dogs for it. There's no mascot.
Man, that's why we should have been named the Red Wolves, so the whole freaking stadium could be.
Let it go, pal. Let it go, pal. It's not the Red Wolves. And also, Pooh already guaranteed he would never have howled anyway.
No, not at all. I'm interested in this mascot thing. I'm like, what is this mascot going to be?
It's dressed up as a soldier.
It's going to be instead of howling because it's not the Red Wolves. Everybody going to be standing at attention,
right?
when they score.
Hell no. No, we just need something against the Eagles when they're screaming "Fly, Eagles, fly." We need to turn around and say, screw you. Here's our saying.
Right.
Just sound of machine gun.
Shoot, fire. Commander, shoot.
Yeah.
Sound of machine.
Fellas, this was great. Awad, tell them about you doing you're hosting the weekend show. Tell the folks at home about it.
Absolutely. So you can hear me Saturday mornings on 106.7 The Fan, 7:30 to 10 a.m. Got to get Chris on the show sometime soon here. And I'm also doing Richmond, Virginia, 910 The Fan on Thursdays and Fridays, 12 to 3 p.m.
Nice.
Very excited. Well, continued success to you, but it was glad to have you on the show. And you two gentlemen, I'll see you next Monday.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me again, guys.
Good for Anders. Thanks, guys.
Yep.